How did you find me? You're sentimental. Ah. Do I have to spell it out for you?
Yes.
Well, tough. What am I saying? What am I actually saying? I mean, seriously, what am I saying? Let me take it from the top. Hello, I'm the Doctor. What? Yes. What? That's right. What? Oh, you're doing what the 10th Doctor used to do, or at least you're parodying what the 10th Doctor used to do. Go on then, finish up, hurry it up. Don't have all day, it's not like everybody's done it before, including ourselves. Come on, chop chop. Oh, it's okay, I'm done now. Oh, good. Right, down to business. Well, I didn't expect this to happen in this episode. I bet you didn't expect to see me in this episode either. Ha ha! You missed me, right? Oh, hi Jack. Sorry, it's not really a good time at the moment. Oh, because you're busy talking to another incarnation of yourself? No, it's because of what's come to light recently. Oh, okay. Yeah, personally, I'm not mad or anything, but other people might be. So, yeah. Do you want me to go? Yeah, just for a bit, just a couple of episodes. Wasn't even going to be in the episode that much anyway. See you on New Year's Day. Okay, see you then. Got the coat out and everything. God's sake. Anyway, down to business. Review time. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my Revisitation review of Doctor Who, Series 12, Episode 5, Fugitive of the Judoon, aka the first of two episodes that broke the fandom in 2020. At time of recording, it's also not a very nice day outside, so the weather outside reflects probably pretty much half the fan base's reception of this episode. So how is this episode so divisive in the fan base? Well, the plot of Fugitive of the Judoon, which is not an episode I hate, it's an episode I like, believe it or not, is Dr. Ryan, Graham, and Yaz find out that this platoon of Judoon are attempting to go down to Earth, Gloucester to be precise, in the present day, 2020, probably, to find this fugitive who they have been hired to find. However, the Judoon do not have jurisdiction on Earth in 2020, so this platoon of Judoon are breaking the Judoon code and Judoon rules. This is most likely due to this lot not really obeying the rules that much, as well as the fact that they don't know who they're looking for, in all honesty. When they do go down to Earth, they meet this guy at a cafe, and he gives them a dossier on a guy he's following and trying to find information about. And he claims that he might... And because the coffee guy doesn't trust this other guy, he gives the Judoon the dossier and says, "Oh, you're looking for a fugitive? Here, I've got a whole file on this guy." So the Judoon just go looking for the guy in the file who turns out not to be the fugitive they're looking for. That being said, he does have a connection to the fugitive, and he does know what he's doing and trying to make sure the Judoon don't get to them, and has a connection to the people who hired this platoon of Judoon to come find the fugitive. So the Doctor and the companions go down to Gloucester to try and make sure the Judoon don't cause too much harm. They've already started, in all honesty, but they're trying to lessen the risk of Judoon damage and hurting people, etc. So they're trying to sort that out. And during this time, we meet some characters who are caught up in this situation. Ruth Clayton and her husband Lee, who is the guy in the coffee shop has the dossier on, and is the guy the Judoon go looking for, and he has a connection with the people who hired the Judoon. And he might not be human, but he has a bio thing to protect himself from being recognized as anything besides human. But he's not the fugitive, believe it or not. Even though the episode might have been implying that he's the fugitive, that's a misdirection. And unlike with what Ed Heim does, it's a good misdirection because you think, oh, it's this guy, but twist, it's somebody else. Which is how you do misdirection. That is how you do a twist, unlike what happened in Orphan fucking 55. And it takes away to a lesser extent. So the plot sounds simple enough, doesn't it? Well, that's just the start of the episode. Things start to get a bit more complicated and shocking later on. But first, the companions are taken away from the main action by Captain Jack Harkness, who makes a surprise return, only to not really do anything. It was quite exciting and really great to see Captain Jack again on the first viewing and even on the second viewing, but he doesn't really do much. He's there, he talks to the companions, he learns that the Doctor's a woman now, much to his delight. It's Captain Jack, of course he's going to be fucking delighted. And he just gives them some exposition and tells them about the Cybermen and warns them to not give the lone Cyberman what it wants, which ties into episode 8 and the finale of this series. So he's basically there for exposition and surprise cameo. This could have been any other character, whether that's returning or a new character. Heck, you might not even have needed this scene in these scenes in the first place. Regardless, it's still great to see Captain Jack again, and John Barrowman fits into the role perfectly. He's fucking fantastic as the character in this episode. We will be seeing him again in the New Year special Revolution of the Daleks, so this also sets up that, sort of. But in the meantime, he does a fantastic performance as the character, who's greatly written. The story is co-written by Vinay Patel and Chris Chibnall, the latter of whom was the head writer of Torchwood Series 1 and 2, so he knows how to write Captain Jack. But as mentioned, he does just pop in for the episode for a few scenes, gives some exposition, has some funny moments, and does some Captain Jack stuff, and then just goes again, and he'll be back in the New Year's special, which he will also be very Captain Jack-like in. But more on that when we get to that story. But yeah, it's a shame he doesn't really do an awful lot for the story, and he is just there for a surprise appearance for fans. It's fan wanking. By the way, we are not talking about the recent stuff that's come to light about him. We're just judging the story and what's going on in it, as well as the performances in the story. Okay? I will quickly mention that it is pretty brilliant that he mistakes Graham for being the Doctor, and he comes up and kisses him and hugs him, mistakes him for the Doctor, and even afterwards he's still like, hey, I still like you, Silver Fox. Although Ryan ends up being his favourite. I also like the fact that he thinks either Ryan or Yaz could be the Doctor, implying that he's also up for having a black or minority playing the Doctor as well. Captain Jack Harkness is a progressive character, and he's been like that always. And probably always will, unless or not my Doctor gets their hands on writing the character. So, whilst the companions are fucking around with Captain Jack, not literally, but considering it's Captain Jack, he wouldn't argue. But whilst that's all happening, the Doctor and Ruth escape the Judoon, but they end up being surrounded by the Judoon at Gloucester Cathedral. It's there that the Judoon realise that Ruth is the fugitive after Lee sends her a text, which lowers the bio-blocking thing, and Lee is killed by Gat, the person who hired the Judoon, or at least is the person representing the people who hired the Judoon. It turns out Ruth is a story that the fugitive gave themselves to just merge into everyday life and avoid being hunted down by the people who are looking for them. But first, there's a bit where some of that comes back to Ruth, and she goes all badass on the Judoon and rips off one of the horns of the Judoon captain, who, by the way, is female, and as a nice tribute to a fan, is named after a fan who passed away. When I don't know if it was before the episode was made or before the episode was broadcast, but certainly named after a fan who passed away before the episode broadcast. The Doctor and Ruth then go back to Ruth's old childhood home, or what appears to be Ruth's old childhood home, and it's there that the Doctor finds something in the ground where Ruth's parents are supposedly buried, and it turns out to be a police public call box. Meanwhile, Ruth smashes this glass that a bit like a fire glass and break the glass and turn on the alarm, so to speak. She breaks that and she gets the memories of what she is back, who she is back, who she really is, and then goes upstairs to get her costume and a gun she confiscated. And it's revealed that Ruth is none other than the Doctor. And this was the moment that broke many fans in the fandom on the, what was it, the 29th of January 2020? I think that was the date, it might be. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yeah, Ruth is the Doctor, but which Doctor? I mean, there's no way we can slot a Doctor in anymore. Time of the Doctor's kind of made sure of that by having 10 regenerating to himself. We couldn't have one more sneaky Doctor between Doctors, like the War Doctor was, because of what happened in the time of the Doctor. And even if that didn't happen, Capaldi would have then otherwise been the last one of the first lot of lives. Or would he? But yeah, where does this Doctor come in the timeline? The answer is not given in this episode, and at current time of recording, it's still not answered. Will it be answered? I have no fucking clue. I don't know whether Chibnall intends to answer this, or if he just wants to leave it a mystery. And to be honest, he has admitted that it was a last-minute decision to make Ruth the Doctor, and he has confirmed she is the Doctor, so I don't know whether he wants to leave this as a mystery, or if he's going to answer this in Series 13 or 14 or something. In my personal headcanon, she's going to be the next Doctor. She's the 14th Doctor, unless an official casting is made of the actual 14th Doctor who will take over from Jodie Whittaker. This isn't a video about speculating who the Jo Martin Ruth Fugitive Doctor is. It's just I'm just mentioning it for talking about the story. Some people have taken it to imply that she is pre-William Hartnell, First Doctor. That's what a lot of people have taken it to be, due to the TARDIS interior being very much like the First and Second Doctor's TARDISes. If that's the case, why does it look like a police box in the exterior? And I would say, unless it's officially confirmed by Chibnall, I would say Jo Martin probably isn't a pre-Hartnell Doctor, although a later episode in this series does open that up a little bit more, that possibility. But personally, because of the exterior, it doesn't seem likely. At least not to me. But again, we'll see what happens. Honestly, the theory about her coming between the second and third Doctors and her adventures following up from the fan theory of Season 6B makes a lot more sense than being prior to the first Doctor. Basically, the Season 6B theory is that the Celestial Intervention Agency sent the second Doctor on various missions across time and space, working for them to give him a bit more time after his trial in the War Games, but before he would go on to regenerate into the third Doctor and do his exile on Earth. So they got him to do some more missions, and that ties in with some expanded media stories and some second Doctor appearances in multi-Doctor adventures. And the theory with Jo Martin's Doctor is that she is then the actual third incarnation of the Doctor, but once she is sent to be exiled, they erase memories of the Doctor's memories of being this incarnation, maybe also the second Doctor when doing those own missions. And the third Doctor, who's actually the fourth incarnation, believes that they are the third incarnation, not the fourth. We've done this number alteration dance before. We're not new to this. I think if we can take the fact that Christopher Eccleston is the ninth Doctor in name, but the 10th in actual incarnation, we can take John Pertwee being the third in name, but fourth incarnation. But as said, this is just a theory. And then also it then makes the Stolen Earth regeneration not count as an actual proper regeneration, or the time was given the Doctor another incarnation to add on to this one, so they believe they have 13 incarnations instead of 12, when in fact they had 14. Which then allows 10 to regenerate into themselves, and then 11 to come, and they think they've only had 12 bodies, but they've used 13 lives by then, but when they actually had 14 lives, and they've used 13 bodies. Jesus Christ, if this theory turns out to be right, then that is a heck of a lot of fans to remember. But it'd be better than pre-Hartnell Doctor, in my opinion. But her being the 14th Doctor, in my opinion, would be the best way to go. She's apparently not a alternative universe Doctor, or a another character thinking that they are the Doctor, like Jackson Lake did in the next Doctor. So yeah, we'll just have to see where this goes. We can't. Can we stop bitching and moaning about it until we actually find out what's going on? I know it's a big shock for everybody, but can we just accept it? And then once we get the answers that we're looking for, then you have my permission to bitch and moan in the comments, if you do wish to. But until then, no bitching and moaning. Yeah, continuity's kind of fucked up, but until we get the answers, we don't know how much, and we don't know where and when. So if we can just hold our horses until we get some proper fucking answers, then thank you. That is much appreciated. Thank you. You're the best. Love you. What's actually quite funny is that a lot of people, myself included even, kind of prefer the personality of this Doctor into the current incumbent one. Think about it, the Fugitive Doctor in just half an episode, and also a scene in an episode coming up later, is more popular, or at least is considered to have a better personality than the incumbent incarnation. And she's not even a Doctor we've met before. That's like if people thought John Hurt's personality was better than Matt Smith's. It's quite surprising. And yet, it's quite obvious. This is how Jo Martin's Doctor is a more tougher, grumpier, and more harder edge Doctor, like we would see with the 6th and 9th Doctors, for example. And it's basically Chibnall kind of doing that type of Doctor, who I think is done a bit better than the happy-go-lucky Doctor of the 13th, who's very much like 10 and 11, and who may have a few signs of more seriousness of personality, and that does come across in a couple of episodes in this series, as well as a few minor points in Series 11. But whilst I think 13 is getting better with those moments, she's still overshadowed by this other incarnation. That being said, this incarnation does grit her teeth and belittle the 13th Doctor a few times in this episode. Not in a mean-spirited way, but more in a way of, this other incarnation of mine is getting a bit annoying. And I've told her not to do some talking, but then she goes and bloody ignores me anyway. Great. So after the two Doctors meet, they are then brought up to the Judoon ship, where they are confronted by the Judoon and Gat, who reveals herself to be a Time Lord, and that they are going to Gallifrey, and it's the Time Lords who sent the Judoon to get the Doctor because she left her job. What job is that? Well, that's where the theory that it ties in with Series 6, with the Season 6B theory, comes into play, as it's implied, maybe she tried to run away from the Celestial Intervention Agency. But it appears that Gat is part of this organisation called the Division, who are mentioned again and sort of introduced in a later episode in the series. I'm not going to say the title because we'll get to it. Hold your horses, we're going to get to it. But when we do get to that episode, we're going to be introduced to the Division, and it appears that Gat is working for the Division. Is this the Celestial Intervention Agency? It's more likely it's a completely new organisation, or it's the precursor to the CIA, the Gallifreyan one, not the American one. And if this is before the First Doctor, that would also make sense. But I think Jo Martin's Doctor is post-First Doctor. I'd actually be up for that between Second and Third Doctor theory, if it meant being after one. Better still if she was 14 and maybe the Division hired her after the regeneration. But we'll see how it goes. If she is the 14th Doctor, I really hope that is what's going to happen in Series 14 or 15. And we'll see how it goes. Gat accidentally kills herself by trying to use the Fugitive Doctor's gun on her, but she ends up killing herself because the gun has been booby-trapped. So, well, not booby-trapped, it's been tampered with, it's been sabotaged. But then the Doctor fixes it and has points at Judoon in order to make sure that they go without being shot by the Judoon. By the way, I don't know why the Judoon have mohawks in this episode. I guess that's what the design that the designers wanted to go with. And now I can't think of Judoon without mohawks now. When I picture them, they've got the mohawks on them. Oh, that's going to be awkward. Anyway, the Doctors then escape, and the 13th Doctor is dropped off near Ruth's old flat so they don't cause a spatial temporal thing with the two TARDISes being nearby each other. What's odd is that the 13th Doctor doesn't put her foot down and firmly say, no, I'm not going to go until we figure this out. I've got questions. I want answers. I'm not going until I figured this out. That's what she should have done. And she doesn't. She just goes off. She meets her companions again, and then she goes off to mope in the TARDIS and after finding out Captain Jack's come back and something's apparently coming. Oh, by the way, one criticism I do have about this episode is that whenever we have a moment to sit down and talk for a little bit, something big and bombastic and exciting then pops up at the end of the scene. When the bit where the Doctor's talking about looking for the Master at the start of the episode, the Judoon message comes along and interrupts the scene. When the Doctor and the Roof Doctor are in the TARDIS, they are then swept up by the Judoon and taken to the ship. At the end of the episode, when the Doctor is opening the TARDIS with the companions and talking to them about what's happened, the TARDIS then makes some noise and tells the Doctor that there's some stuff going on that will take place in the next episode, basically giving us a teaser for that story. There might be a few other moments, but those are the main three I wanted to mention. It just feels like we've got some great character moments, and then we're just interrupted for some big important stuff. Maybe for the plot, maybe for the plot of the next episode in the last case. Maybe it's the fact that the drama goes on a little bit too long, and then so by the time we've got to move on, it kind of feels out of place, especially the final bit, although that is due to tying in with the next episode. That makes a lot more sense, actually. Production-wise, this is a really great episode. Again, Nidia Manzoor. I really hope I got that name right. The director of the last episode directs this episode really well. She does a really great job. Great filming on location in Gloucester. Looks really great. Some good visual effects, although I do have to criticise the flashbacks. I'm not a fan of the flashbacks and flashback cutaways and inside process stuff in this episode, especially the bit when Gat's looking into the Doctor's mind, and once we cut back, the fugitive Doctor doesn't even give them a second to have a breather before asking what did they see. I think the best modern era to have flashbacks is actually the Moffat era, in all honesty. The RTD ones I kind of have a small nine and niggle with how they're done, but nothing too bad. But this one, I just feel like they're either too quick or they're just too flashy. Besides that, production is really great in this episode, and there's some pretty good effects, especially for the Judoon equipment. The effects are a little bit different to how they were in Smith & Jones. Funny enough, this episode is actually a PG, which is one of only two in the Jodie Whittaker era, the other one being the Saranga Conundrum, both of which are episode 5, so I'm expecting episode 5 of series 13 to be a PG. Though, to be honest, Though, to be fair, I do disagree on the fact that quite a few of the other episodes are rated 12. I think some of them, especially in Series 11, could be PGs. But what's quite ironic is that these effects definitely kind of feel more PG aimed at, and yet the original effects are also in PG episodes. The one from Smith & Jones, that's a PG episode, and the effects are a little more brutal there. Yeah, this episode's a PG, but Nikola Tesla was a 12. Make that what you will. Casting-wise, everybody does a brilliant performance. Jodie Whittaker is really great. This is her best performance as the Doctor since Spyfall. Captain Jack, as I mentioned, John Barrowman fits into the role again like a glove. Bradley Walsh is awesome as per usual, even if we don't get much screen time with him. Totten Cole and Matt Gill, again, really good as Ryan and Yaz, but they don't really get much to do. In fact, the whole Captain Jack stuff is just an excuse to get the companions out of the way. Ryan and Yaz do a bit more stuff than Graham, but ultimately they are taken out of the episode around halfway through, or just before, just so that the Doctor can interact with Ruth later, the fugitive Doctor, on her own. Speaking of the fugitive Doctor / Ruth, Jo Martin is excellent as both characters. She's just absolutely brilliant, especially as the Doctor. She is really great. And, I would not mind her counting her as an official Doctor. Just so long as we knew where she came. That's what I want to know. And I'm hoping it's a sensible answer, not a stupid one, but we'll see how it goes. Like I said, we don't know yet. We also have a good performance for the actor playing Lee and the actress playing Gat. Oh, by the way, somebody complained that there were 3 female Time Lords in this episode and no male Time Lords. Well, several classic series story, in fact every classic series story prior to the invasion of time that featured the Time Lords, they were all male. So why are you getting your knickers in a twist about having 3 female Time Lords in this episode when the War Games, Colony in Space, I believe, the 3 Doctors, and the Deadly Assassin, plus any other time Time Lords will pop up to say something to the Doctor, like Terra the Autons or Genesis of the Daleks, it was always male. We wouldn't get a female incarnation till the invasion of time, at the end of season fucking 15. And that's 9 seasons after the introduction of the Time Lords. So yeah, the people getting upset about no male Time Lord in this episode can just go fuck themselves, because that's nothing compared to the lack of female Time Lords in stories prior to the invasion of time. Episode 2. So, yeah. Also, some people have claimed that there's a straight white male villain in this episode. What straight white male villain? The villains are the Judoon and Gat, who's a woman and is played by an Indian actress and an alien. So what straight white male villain? You can't mean Lee. He wasn't a villain. You can't mean that coffee shop guy. Yeah, it was a bit creepy, but he's not a villain. And you certainly can't mean Captain Jack or Graham. If you do, then you can just fuck off, because Captain Jack and Graham are not villains. Or at least not in this episode, anyway. So, yeah. I believe it was Bullstreak or someone who said that. So, yeah, obviously they're just trying to make controversy for the sake of controversy so they can get upset over nothing. Oh, gee, what a surprise. That's what they do. And they try to rile their audiences up with them. Honestly, people, you'd be better off following Mr. TARDIS or the Who Addicts or 5 Who fans if they were still around, or Farries or Crispy Pro, or any good Doctor Who YouTuber, not a Not My Doctor. Follow an honest-to-God good person. And if you're following me, thank you. You are very nice people. So anyway, no straight white male villain in this story. Heck, the Judoon captain's a woman, as I mentioned earlier. But there isn't really that many straight white male villains in the Jodie Whittaker era. As political as the series can get, there's only been a small number in comparison to female villains or coloured or other ethnicity villains or villains who are fucking aliens. Honestly, I don't think that Pating's a straight white male villain. Krasko might be. Charlie is. Diet Trump is probably. And those are the only ones who come to mind straight away. I don't even think there's that many in this series. You could argue Zelen, but he's also an alien. Heck, he's an immortal, so he's more than an alien. And you've also got Ashad the Cyberman, but that's about it. There's only about 5 proper white male villains, and one of them's a godlike being, and another one is a Cyberman. Okay, side rant over. Wrapping up this episode, Fugitive of the Judoon starts off as a really fun and engaging Judoon stomping around Gloucester story, but then halfway through it does get a bit bizarre and strange when it does go into more lore-heavy stuff. The shock reveal of the Fugitive Doctor, which might only be there just to have a big shock for the audience, and it does get a bit muddled. That being said, I still enjoyed it, I still had a good time, and despite the continuity and lore-changing revelations, which have not yet been answered, it's still a good episode. I still think it's a pretty good episode. I will be giving Fugitive of the Judoon an 8 out of 10. Still think it's a good episode. I gave it a 9 originally, but it's dropped down a little bit because there are a few faults with this episode. Even in round some of that stuff I've already mentioned. Even if we had the answers by now, the foundations of this are slightly a little bit not solid. They're not quite solid yet. It's a fun story, but there are some foundations that could have been smoothed over. And also, Captain Jack just turning up and not doing much is a bit disappointing, especially as we've got the great John Barrowman back to play the character who is slipped into the role very easily and does a really good job in the role. And it also just means we can get the companions out of the way for like half an episode, just so that the Doctor can be with Ruth / the Fugitive Doctor. It is a bit of an awkward way to get companions out of the way, and like with Spyfall Part 2, it's just trying to get something for them to do in an episode where they wouldn't really be doing that much, at least after the halfway mark for Ryan and Yaz, and not much at all for Graham. So that's a bit disappointing, but they were still good in the scenes they got. So that's Fugitive of the Judoon. Despite some unsolid, creaky foundations for some changes to the canon and the lore. Not that canon's a very stable thing to begin with. That's another YouTuber I've just remembered you guys should go and follow, Davies. He has a really great series called Broke Canon, where we go through the inconsistencies of all the Doctor Who canon across all Doctor Who media. Go check it out. He's on to episode 33. But if we are going to talk about canon, yeah, it is kind of a bit of a creaky foundations for this change in the canon and in the Doctor Who lore, but we'll see how it goes. It's not over yet. And the same could be said for something that's coming up later down the line that's even bigger. But as I mentioned, we haven't got our answers yet. We'll have to wait until at least Series 13. And probably not even the first episode. Probably halfway through the series at earliest. So besides that and Captain Jack not being in this episode that much, not being needed to be in this episode that much, and just setting up the last 3 episodes of the series and the special, it was still great to have him back. So Fugitive of the Judoon, in my opinion, is still a fun romp of adventure, but the foundations for its lore changes might be a little bit creaky. and Captain Jack was just there for fan service. So that's it from my Revisitation review of Fugitive of the Judoon. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave only nice comments in the comment section below. I don't want to be having to delete any of them. And I'll see you guys next time for my Revisitation review of Praxeus. Until then, goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the Nicholas Payne YouTube channel.